Hi, good morning, and I hope that you had a wonderful Christmas day. Now, I'm recording this just before Christmas, and I wanted to get this out nice and early to you this morning so you can take a look at the Boxing Day races. Now, Boxing Day is one of my personal favourite days of racing in the King George. I just absolutely love. I don't have a particular reason for it. I think it's just to do with the whole general environment and kind of what's usually going on around the Christmas time. I just love that race. So I thought rather than kind of do a write-up, I'd record this video so we can jump into that race together and see if between the two of us we can find the winner or make some profits in this race. So on your screen here you can see the Race Advisor Pro dashboard, and I'm just going to jump into that race, and it's taking place at 3 o'clock today at Kempton. As of recording this, the ground is considered to be good to soft, so I'm going to base my analysis on the fact that the ground is considered to be good to soft. However, obviously that may change between the time that you're watching this and the time that I'm recording it, so please just be aware of that and keep an eye on the ground condition. I'm also not going to be considering the odds. Now, there are some odds out there. The Betfair markets are still a bit thin, and we haven't yet pulled those Betfair odds into our system, which is why you can see they're currently showing a 0, but that's fine. I'm actually not going to be using the Betfair odds in this because it's a little bit too far away from the race for me to really want to use them anyway. So we're just going to use the stats, we're going to dig in and we're going to see what we can find. Okay, I'm going to start by changing my race card to my standard race card. I'm going to go through that standard race card first, and then from there we're going to see which horses we may like and where we may want to dig in a little bit more. So obviously the King George is a chase turf race, it's a class 1 race, and the ground is currently predicted to be good to soft. The distance is 3 miles and the prize money this year is 116,000. Now, interestingly, the VDW place race score is 91%. That indicates that the top 4 VDW scoring horses, one of those is likely to place 91% of the time, so very highly. So we should be aware of that. But the win score here is a bit lower at 79%, so maybe don't want to put too much emphasis on that for the win market. But at the moment I'm not really sure how I'm going to bet or how I want to bet. So we're just going to look at all the horses. There's only 9 runners in this race, so that makes it totally possible. And I'm going to start by clicking on our PR odds column and sorting by probability. So I just get these raw probabilities. And unsurprisingly, Clan des Beaux is up there and her name is up there. And they are both currently the top 2 in terms of probabilities for our PR odds, and then there's a big drop down to Santini and then Lost in Translation, Black Ops. So I'm just going to leave those 2 alone highlighted for the moment because we've got that big jump down. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to have a look at the 5-2-7-8, and we can see that on the 5-2-7-8, now the top 4 here perform very, very well. So on the 5-2-7-8, interestingly, it's only Clan des Beaux from the 2 that we've highlighted that comes into that top 4, although surname, I believe that's how it's pronounced, is number 5, so kind of within the frame, and there may be a little bit of leeway there. But we've got Santini, Frodan and Lost in Translation all kind of sitting here as possibles as well, indicating what we already know, that this race is probably going to be pretty competitive and is going to be quite an exciting race to be watching. Now I'm going to skip a lot of the ratings on this card. I'm going to look at the PFP and I'm going to sort from top to bottom. And again, interestingly here, Clan and Surname are kind of coming towards the bottom, 15, 14, 15, 16. And I say that, but when we look at the actual scores, we'll see that they're kind of actually mid, really. They're more midfield than not. But they are still quite low. But I do notice that Santini and Lost in Translation are again kind of near the top here. So I'm just going to mark those 2 horses as possible well, and kind of I'm going to make a mental note that Frodon is sitting at the top for this particular factor. But what's interesting about Frodon is if I look at the column next to it here, this average competitive column, we can see that Frodon's kind of sitting towards the bottom, as is Black Op, and that's like an average competitive class version of the PFP. But Santini, Lost in Translation, again we see them near the top, Clan des Beaux again in the middle, Surname kind of middle to bottom again there, or at least bottom of the middle I should say. Okay, so I'm starting to get a feel, a very basic feel now for this race. And I'm not going to look, as I said, I'm not going to look at the VDW scores just yet, but instead I'm going to jump over to a different race card, a race card that's got more ratings on it, a race card that I actually don't recommend you generally use because there's too much information, but it's really good when recording videos like this because it's all kind of condensed in one place and I don't have to jump about so much. So again, I'm going to look at the PFP score here, but the difference here is I'm looking for the lowest 95% confidence interval, which you can see here for the best, supposedly the highest scoring horse, Frodon, is 1511. And then I'll come down here and look at the upper confidence level. And I can see it's St. Calvados. Even if it performed at the best we're going to expect it to perform, it's only just going to be kind of reaching the levels of supposedly the top performers. So I'm not going to remove it because it does just reach it, but it's just going to be something that I'm going to be aware of. Now, I'm going to come across here to average speed on the distance. Now, because obviously this is quite a long race. So, again, over the distance, Clan Zabo is sitting up near the top. But interestingly, Santini's ahead of Surname. And that's just something to bear in mind because Santini's been near the top. Now, lost in translation, we haven't actually got an average speed over this distance, so that's a bit of an unknown. So I'm still going to leave that in there. But Clan Zabo definitely sitting near the top here, and then coming in behind Santini. Again, another strong indicator for Santini. Now, looking at the average speed over the ground conditions, Surname's near the top, Clan Zabo again kind of not far off the top, Santini just behind Clan Zabo. We're talking about a few points here. Outside of Surname, who is significantly better than the others, pardon me, Lost in Translation sitting kind of right at the bottom. Otherwise, they're all quite close to each other. But Lost in Translation, we may have an issue on ground conditions with this horse. Remember, they could change between the time I'm recording this video and the time that you are now watching it, and bear that in mind. But good to soft could be an issue for Lost in Translation. We'll dig into that a bit more. Now, this is the first time that we've seen Waiting Patiently near the top. Real Steel's kind of sitting in the middle again, Black Op, St. Calvados kind of towards the bottom of the field, so not much change there. Now, days since last good win. So actually, good race. Black Op and Waiting Patiently haven't had a good race for quite some time. Black Op we can see has had a few races this season, Waiting Patiently not, but they haven't had a good race for some time, which is a bit of a concern. Even more importantly, look, Waiting Patiently hasn't had a good race for over 1,000, hasn't won a race, sorry, for over 1,000 days. And Black Op is again kind of much further, and this reduces the importance in my mind, and I'm kind of mentally removing them, but I just want to see some of the other figures, so I'm going to leave them in. I'm not going to hit the elimination buttons here, which would just remove them from the card just yet, because I'm just kind of want to fill up the final picture here. And the final picture for me on this particular card is going to be made of these four scores here: PFPPLR, and that's points in last race, points in second last race, third last race, and fourth last race. And I'm looking for a continuous kind of flowing up. And looking at Surname, I can see that's happening there. But Clan Zabo, we've got a little bit of jumping around. It's not quite so consistent here. A bit of a warning. But Santini, again, I'm seeing this beautiful kind of increase at each of the previous races. And Lost in Translation as well. The last one, not so good, but not a huge drop. But that's a real another strong point there for Santini, and also a strong point for Surname too. So those are really, really good. So at the moment, I'm particularly keen on Santini and Surname, and I think Clan Zabo, Lost in Translation, kind of sitting just behind there, with possibly Frodon coming next, and then we've got Waiting Patiently, Real Steel, Black Ops, and Calvados kind of sitting towards the rear of the competitive level, I should say. I'm not saying that that's how the race is going to be run, but that's kind of how I see it as a competitive level. So I'm gonna be doing this in absolute detail. I'm going to use a lot of tools here. So I'm going to open the speed graphs, but while that's happening, I'm also going to run. I'm going to remove these odds here, and I'm going to remove these. but I'm going to run a Monte Carlo simulation on this race car. I'm just going to let that run in the background while we have a look at this race card. Now obviously I want to filter this, and we're on Chase Turf Race, and we've got good to soft. Now I'm just going to go around that a little bit. I'm going to add good, and I'm also going to add soft in as well, just to give a little bit of a bit of range around the ground condition. Now I also want to put a distance in. The distance here works in yards, so I'm just going to go 3 miles in yards here, and we can see that's 5,280 yards. So I'm going to put in here 5,000 to say 5,500. Sorry, not 500, 5,000 then. So I just want to filter this a little bit. I'm going to apply that filter and see. We've reduced the amount of races that are shown on this graph massively. I'm going to start by looking at the dynamic speed figures here in brackets next to each horse's name, and surname is significantly better than the next best Black Op, which is very close to Santini, which isn't too far ahead of Clanders of Bow. Interestingly, Santini looks sort of a bit of a decline here, which is a little bit of a shame, whereas Surname under these conditions looks nice and strong. Frodon kind of really not looking very strong here, a decline coming down on this blue line, which really doesn't look great. Let me just make this a bit bigger so you can see it. Sorry, there we go. So you can see that Frodon is this blue line. It's kind of just dropping down a bit here. Over here we've got Black Op with 1 race, 26th of December at Kempton, and it looks like they were all in this race potentially together. So Clanders of Bow actually beat them. Surname came second, but we'll get into that in the horse history. But from this graph, what we're actually seeing really is Clanders of Bow is kind of okay, bouncing around a little bit. Santini's got this sort of slightly disappointing drop down here, and Surname's looking nice and strong. Black Op has only had 1 race. I'm going to come back into that dynamic filter. I'm just going to drop this down to 4,000 yards. Just to widen that a bit more, bring a few more races in here, get a bit of a better idea. Now I don't want to go back to 2017, I want to go back to say 2019, because we've had a bit of a weird year this year. And when we do that, we can see a slightly better picture, but we can again see Surname is kind of looking really strong. Again, Clanders of Bow sitting near the top, and then we come down to kind of Real Steel. Santini still, this last race here from Santini is kind of a little bit disappointing. This Chase Turf at Aintree, over 5,490 yards, so a little bit longer than today. Really didn't do so well. Came second, but the speed that it put in wasn't so great. So at the moment, based on here, I've got a little bit more confidence in Surname than Santini. Santini's still potentially threatening. Clanders of Bow again looking a bit stronger here. So we're seeing the same names, which is kind of the most important thing. That's what I wanted to see. Black Op, we're seeing a little bit of a better picture coming up here, but it's going to have to improve because it looks like it raced against other horses in that race, all of which beat it. So again, at the moment, I'm still looking at Clanders of Bow, Surname, and Santini kind of being the strongest. Now let's jump back over here to the simulation and let's see what happened in that simulation. So I'm going to open it, and we got the results here. Now, sitting at the top, we got Surname, Santini, Clanders of Bow, and that's really reassuring because that's kind of where we got to ourselves anyway. Lost in Translation sort of sitting in the middle. We haven't really seen much of that horse in the last few stages of what we've done. So that's probably about right. Frodon waiting patiently and then dropping down to Real Steel, St. Calvados and Black Op. So that's all kind of, Black Op possibly a bit lower than we may expect, but that's pretty much how we were picturing it by now in our heads anyway. The simulator has kind of shown us that we're on the right tracks. And Surname, Santini and Clanders of Bow are probably going to be the ones that we're going to want to focus on here. Okay. Now let's dig into these horses' history a little bit. Let's start with Surname. And now, pardon me, we've got a number of 3 mile races here. 1, 2, 2 3 mile races. both on soft ground, which is great. Just to confirm, Surname today is carrying 11.10. They're all carrying 11.10 today, and in these races here, it was carrying 11.10 and 11.6, so a bit less there. Won the race carrying 11.6 by 2 lengths, but this was also a lower class race as well. Whereas today, more like this Kempton race, it would have been the King George last year, and here it is, this 3-mile race, came second, but was beaten 21 lengths by Clan des Obeaux. So now the question is can Clan des Obeaux beat Surname in this race again? That's the big question. Coming down, we know that this horse obviously is going to like this race. The question is, can it beat Clan des Obeaux? And look at the SPs on these horses. It was 2.25 in this race. So it was pretty sure to be beaten by 21 lengths, in fact. So coming on down, we know that this horse can compete at this level. We know that it likes the soft ground. Now on the heavy ground, it fell. That's the only heavy race it's been in. So if the ground does go from kind of good to soft to heavy, that might be something to be aware of. However, at the moment it's predicted to be good to soft, so you're going to have to look at this today as you're watching this video. But good to soft, this horse actually prefers that slightly firmer ground, and we can see that here. This firmer ground could potentially play in its favour. It's won by 17 lengths in this race at Ascot, 21 lengths. So that could play in its favour. Obviously these races weren't quite at the same level, and they were a couple of furlongs shorter as well. So all of that is to bear in mind, but carrying a little bit more weight, if that ground is a little bit firmer, could possibly play in Surname's favour. Let's come in and have a look at Clan des Obeaux, and let's have a look at the race last year. Here we go, where it won by 21 lengths. Now the SP for Clan des Obeaux was 6.5, so obviously massively greater value than Surname. And what we should have done, and I didn't do, is I should have had a quick look at the in-running comments here. Chase leader, hard pressed, headed and jumped left next, and then soon beaten and weakened. Okay, and that was that was Surname. Now I'm coming back to Clan des Obeaux. And here the in-running comments are saying to us: in touch, chase leader 12th, upsized, travelled strongly 3 out, jumped to lead, soon clear in command, and pushed out, eased home. Now since then, this horse only had a couple of races. Most recently came second on heavy ground, and that's quite reassuring, because it stayed on heavy ground, always held on, as we can see in those in-running comments. Slightly longer distance there as well, carrying just a few pounds less. So again, if the ground stays good to soft, that's going to play in this horse's favour. And we can see coming down here the 3-mile race this horse likes. Obviously it won that King George really nicely, but we got down here this Down Royal race, 89,000, 3 miles, only beaten by 4 lengths there. Coming down other competitive races, we got a win here, 7 lengths, but that's 2 miles, 5 furlongs. Then we're getting into shorter distances. We've got a 3-mile win here at Kempton, 2018, Boxing Day 2018. And won by 1.5 lengths, SP of 13. And this would indicate that this horse, the odds on this horse seem to offer value. Whether it's going to offer value again this year is yet to be seen. But this is obviously going to be the one to beat. Obviously Surname is going to be really chasing this horse, and going to be trying to tackle it down. Okay, now the last horse here, Santini. And here we can see Santini again likes the 3-mile races, and we can see here has been comparatively winning and performing very well recently. Even in this Cheltenham race, £352,000, 3 miles 2 furlongs, was only beaten by 0.3 of a length. Likes the 3-miler, we can see that up here, beaten 1 length at Aintree. However, much lower class race there, much lower class race. So whether it prefers that little bit of extra distance, again, this 3 mile, 1 furlong higher, a bit higher, 57k race, won by 3.5 lengths. Coming down here, 3 miles just beaten, 3 miles beaten by 3.5 lengths. But then we've got a 2 mile, 7 furlong down here. And of course, this is much a lower class race at just 23k, but won that race. Won this 3 miler at 56k. So again, this horse is definitely a threat. It's definitely got potential to take this race. And it looks like there could be a bit of a battle taking place at the front of this field. Now, just have a quick glance at Black Op just to see where we sat back in 2019, Boxing Day last year. Again, in its race was beaten only 1.25 lengths, but it wasn't in this race. It was only in a 58k race at that time. So, and was wearing headgear as well. So this horse is going to probably have a lot to do to make it up. So we're looking here really for these 3 horses here. We've got Clan des Beaux, Surname, and Santini. Clan des Beaux, Surname. Surname's going to be battling Clan des Beaux to try and take that win. Clan des Beaux clearly loves this race and has proven himself over and over again. Santini is... Santini looks like could be a threat. Now let's just have a quick look at the pace scores here, just to see what we've got. We're predicting this race to be run pretty fast. That means we're looking for early pressers, mid-pack horses generally. Looking at the pace, we can see Frodon actually looks to have the strongest pace, likes to be leader, so is likely to be out there. Surname possibly going to be sitting just behind that horse. Clan des Beaux likely to be closing. That also ties in line with what we've seen this runner do previously. So that's likely to play in that horse's favour as well. And Santini likely to be mid-pack, and again, that's what we can see the running style of this horse prefers is mid-pack. So all of these horses are likely to be in positions that they like. So this is likely to be an absolute battle to the end. So I think what it comes down to for these 3 horses is actually how does one structure the bet? Okay. So, I've just opened Betfair here because I thought let's just see what we've got on the sportsbook, because the sportsbook's going to be offering odds on this already. So let's go here, and I think I actually just missed that. Let me come back a page here. The King George Chase. So this is going to give us a bit of an idea of what's going on. Now remember, we're after Clan des Beaux, Santini's Surname are our major ones. Oops, sorry there. No, up to the top. So Clan des Beaux currently sitting here on Betfair at 2-1. Surname second, 11-4. Santini 6-1. So Santini is looking to be like we've got some nice value there. Clan des Beaux, Surname, they're likely to kind of be bouncing around each other. Not too much different there. Looking at the place market, Santini is 5-4 for 3 places, 2-1 for 2 places, and 4-5 for 4 places. So the others are pretty short. Although evens on Surname in 2 places seems to be pretty good, but I'm not sure I'd want to be going for 2 places on either of these 3 horses, to be honest. I think I want at least 3 places, possibly 4, which means that possibly this place market is not actually going to work for structuring this bet. We'll have to see that close to the time, and you'll be able to see that while you're watching this video. You'll be able to kind of make a judgment on that. But I'm not sure there's because neither of these horses particularly stand out for me. They are all competitive. They all have a chance. I'm not sure that the place market's really going to work. Looking at betting without is also possibly not going to work here either. We could have betting without both of those and just go for Santini at 9-4, but that's probably a little bit short. Betting without Surname, going with Clan des Beaux, so I don't really think either of them are really going to work either. Possibly a tricast could be an interesting one here. We've got the 3 here, and actually there aren't the 3 at the top. 7-4. 7-4 for Clan des Beaux, Surname, and Santini to come in that order. And I quite like that. I would like to actually get higher odds than that, to be honest. But that might be a bet that I would be interested in having a small, fun wager on as well. And then obviously we've got the versus bets here. But again, I'm not sure that's really the way we want to go in this race. So at the moment, based on what's here, is I'll probably be looking actually at a Dutch bet across those 3 horses with a bit of a fun bet on that tri-cast in case one of them come in. So there it is. So for me in this race, I like the Dutch. I like Canada's a Bow, Surname Santini. I think the race is going to be between those 3 runners. And I think that's where the competition will stem from. And so I'm going to be focusing the structure of my bet around those 3 runners to see what it brings. Now, I'd love to know who you're going to be following in this race. So please do leave me a comment below this video and let me know. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the Race Advisor on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and join now. Thank you very, very much for watching. Have good luck with today's racing. I hope you enjoy the King George V. Please let me know who you're going to be following in this race and why you like them. Have a wonderful day, and I will look forward to seeing you very soon. Goodbye for now.